Your common sense is telling you something just isn't adding up here. And you know what? You're absolutely right. Go with that gut feeling. Each and every day, we get a press briefing from the president and from his Corona task force. Now, let me begin by saying that I believe the president is being ill served right now. In fact, I believe there are those around him that are giving him mis and disinformation. And I believe that this is a continuation not only of the coup and the impeachment process to take him out, but some of you might be thinking, yeah, Pastor, I caught your monologue yesterday, and man, you're talking about, though, like the whole world is involved. Exactly. And it's not so much about Donald Trump. It's not so much about America. It's the oligarch globalists have united. They're ticked off about Brexit. They're ticked off about what's happened here. They're ticked off about what's happening in other places as they see their global chokehold is absolutely crumbling. It is imploding because it does not work, much like communism. It cannot support nor sustain itself. Europe is being devoured right now in the coronavirus. Why? Open borders. Everybody come on in. It's all wonderful. And now that we are in the midst of a created pandemic. Why? Because the globalists have said, we want what we had back. That's happening here, and it's happening around the globe. That said, let's take a little look at the Corona Task Force. Dr. Fauci comes out every day, and no matter how much the president is trying to encourage people, keep spirits up, give people faith and optimism, out comes Dr. Fauci. Well, this could happen well into the summer. That triggered the Virginia governor to issue a stay-at-home order through June the 10th. You do know it's not even technically April yet. And he's going to shut down his state officially till June the 10th. Maryland has given no indication when they might reopen. Ohio is supposed to reopen on April the 6th. My feeling is that Governor DeWine, taking a lead from President Trump, being pushed in a direction that he doesn't want to go by Dr. Fauci, he's going to push Ohio to the end of April, I'm sure, maybe longer. He's even hinted at possibly we might have to look at summer. And then Dr. Fauci even said yesterday, we need to be prepared that this is going to come back in the fall, just like the flu. You know why it's going to come back in the fall just like the flu? Because it is the flu. And the entire lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media, they are on board with this false narrative, as well as Fox News, which I refer to as faux pas news. In fact, even Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity are now talking endlessly. It's a pandemic. We need to go through this shutdown, yada, yada, yada. Now, I think that they're doing it because they believe that they are helping the president, helping the president's agenda, trying to get people to cooperate, work together, but we're all going to come through this and the economy's going to come roaring back. Now, the globalists are trying to teach the Donald Trumps of this world, no. We, the globalists, we determine, we dictate what the economy is going to do and not going to do, and that's the end of it. I mean, we watched one lone Republican try to stop the stimulus scam on Friday, and he's hated by both parties. Well, why is that? We watched the largest transfer of wealth in the history of our country. The largest transfer of wealth in the history of our country. And who did it go to? The top 1%. The banks. Corporate welfare. And what was the bait to draw us in? You're going to get $1,200. We're going to tax you $60,000 to pay for this. but in turn, we're going to give you 1,200 back. And it was a Republican who said, wait a minute. You couldn't even get the libs, the progressives, like AOC, Ilhan Omar, or Kamala, or Bernie, or Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren. You couldn't get any of them to say, stop! The deep state, the oligarch, the globalist want their power and their money back. And remember, it always comes back to the money. And so the oligarchs, the globalists, have created a pandemic. And it's about two things. It's about, number one, control. And as always, it's about money.
I might have a bit of a boom for you today. Something I found while continuing my research into the people on the coronavirus task force. If you recall in my last video, I hope you saw it. It was all about Deborah Birx and her connection to this organization called PEPFAR. Deborah Birx was the overseer of PEPFAR, and she was the U.S. Global Ambassador on AIDS HIV, if you can believe that exists. It does. She was part of CDC, and now she's part of this. She, Anthony Fauci, and Mike Pence were all part of PEPFAR. They may still be, I'm not 100% sure. But I was talking about how it was a circle of fraud between the U.S. State Department, PEPFAR, this thing called the Global Fund, and the UN, the United Nations. A letter dated January 16th, 2019. It's a memo for Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch in the Ukraine from Ambassador Deborah L. Birx, MD. Subject: Fiscal year 2019 PEPFAR planned allocations and strategic direction. Boom.
You need to check out The Amazing Polly here on YouTube. She's got some great stuff. You're going to find her different but informative. That said, Candace Owens stated the obvious over the weekend. I've been saying it now for a few days here, and that is, are the stats on the coronavirus, the people that are getting it, the people that have it, the people that are dying from it, are these stats actually accurate? Is this really, really authentic numbers? She tweeted out that heart disease is the #1 killer in the U.S. Over 1,000 people a day die from heart disease. And yet now, when someone dies of a heart attack, they are swabbed in the morgue, and if they have any evidence, trace evidence whatsoever of coronavirus, they are counted among, yep, you guessed it, the corona death count. Doesn't matter if they died of a heart attack, doesn't matter if they died of cancer, doesn't matter if they died in a head-on car collision, they are swabbed, and if they can indicate there is any trace of corona, that's how they're listed, as a corona death. And might I echo The Amazing Polly? Boom. Now, I told you, I do believe there is a virus. I'm not denying that. I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. I'm not saying that the virus is made up. The virus is real. What's not real are the stats we're looking at. In fact, Faux News, formerly known as Fox News, has a 24-hour graphic going showing the outbreak of corona and how it's spreading, the pandemic. Of course, that's not creating any fear at all. And they're going back and forth between Tucker and Hannity and Laura and, come on, Mr. President, tell us the truth. Tell us we need to be wearing masks. Tell us we need to be wearing gloves. Have you seen people walking around with these masks and gloves? First of all, they look ridiculous. Second of all, even Fox News website is now running articles that scientists have determined that coronavirus could be airborne. The one test that they cite for this, they did in a quote-unquote testing situation. They had a closed, sealed room with no ventilation, and they released coronavirus in the form of an aerosol gas into the air. And then when they checked the room 3 hours later, Shazam, Batman, there's still traces of it in the air. Aha! It's an airborne disease that can be spread. You and I, when we cough, are not an aerosol can. Our cough, even when you can't see it, it's wet. It's saliva. It comes out, it drops. Now, can you get the coronavirus if you touch something that's been contaminated? Well, if you don't wash your hands, of course you can. It's like getting the flu. And see, fear now feeds the narrative. And you've got articles even on the Fox News website about a woman. All I did was just go back and forth to the grocery store and I got it. See how easy it is to get this? This is a contagion. No, it's a virus. It's a virus. And the only people really that are dying from this, it's because they had corona and something else. The FDA did approve chloroquine, but only in emergency cases. We've had millions of doses released to us now, but it's only going to be used in emergency cases. Same in France. You know, as I looked at the Faux Pas News, Fox News graphic, it's the entire globe and where the coronavirus is breaking out. You know where it's not breaking out? And I reported this a week ago. Africa. Relatively clear. Now, we've all sat in our living room, especially late at night when UNICEF and the Christian Missionary Fund and all run their commercials of the starving children in Africa, and we see the abject poverty, the unsanitary conditions that many people live in there. Well, you would think that a place like Africa would be a hotbed for a viral pandemic, but it's not. It's actually one of the relatively safe spots on the planet. Well, why is that? Could it be because the people of Africa pop chloroquine like you and I take a Tic Tac? And why do they take it so frequently there? Because it's an anti-malaria drug. Same in Australia. So why wouldn't we use it? Because it would bring a quick resolve to this, and that would destroy Dr. Fauci's issue. See, again, he's globalist. The people surrounding President Trump, his trusted advisors, including the VP, globalist. Wake up, America. Wake up. Recently, CBS trying to project the image that New York City is really besieged and they're out of hospital beds and look at these horrid conditions the hospitals are in as they were doing that narrative and showing the footage. Well, it turns out that they were actually showing us the overcrowding of an Italian hospital. Now, of course, CBS issued a minor retraction, and you can't find any footage anywhere now of their initial reporting talking about that the images we were seeing were a New York City hospital, when in reality it was an Italian hospital. Then we're not hearing anything really about Governor Cuomo gutted his own healthcare and Medicare program in the state of New York, that he cut from his budget the additional 20,000 hospital beds. He cut from his budget masks and gloves and ventilators. And now he wants to come out every day and be America's dad. And Democrats are hoping that somehow they can overthrow Joe Biden and bring in Andrew Cuomo. And Andrew Cuomo is now being seen as presidential because he's being seen as a decisive leader. He's a mob boss. And he's got Fredo, the little brother, to prove it. And that's all Andrew Cuomo is. And now he plays the blame game against Trump. And on the one hand, he screams at Trump for not doing enough, yet his own mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, who was really late in coming to the party, wanted to shut down New York City. Then the governor said, absolutely not. So what does he do? He shuts down the state, but now he's going to sue the governor of Rhode Island because the governor of Rhode Island won't allow anyone from New York into Rhode Island. all these conflicting narratives. Every once in a while, somebody gets convicted of a crime they did not commit. And when somehow they finally get a new trial, or somebody works very diligently on their behalf to uncover the truth and gets it to the powers that be, and they get their sentence recused and they get freed. You know, many times after they're thanking God and everyone else that they're now free, then they love to say something like this to the prosecutor. The evidence was there, you just didn't want to see it. And beloved, listen to me. The evidence is all around us that we are being set up and we are being played, we are being duped, and this is a fraud. Again, are people getting COVID-19? Are they getting sick? Yes, they are. But the stats are so juked, and these new test kits that all of a sudden, poof, overnight, we're being able to churn them out now by the millions. Now let me get this straight. A drug, chloroquine, which has been around since the 1940s. Well, Dr. Fauci doesn't really want it used because we haven't done enough clinical testing on it. Well, it's been 60 years, Doc. But now all of a sudden, test kits, which have been around 15 minutes. How accurate do we think those readings are? Are you hearing me? Are you getting this? And is it whatever viral infection you have, whether it's just the regular flu, pneumonia, or respiratory infection, are you now immediately just deemed corona positive? And then what about the people who have coronavirus? They're asymptomatic, but they themselves are not sick. Corona positive. Look, we're up to almost 1 million cases now. What if we were screening just for the flu? How many cases would there be? And I already told you, they're juking the death stats. How do we know that all these people that died of corona? And again, isn't it interesting how first we're told, well, you know, even after we can test, it takes days to get the results. Yet we know in a nanosecond that the corpse laying there died of corona. Do you not understand this has been in the works? And it goes back pre-impeachment. But this was the final weapon in the deep state coup to take out Donald Trump and to restore globalism worldwide. I told you, stop and think. 2 weeks ago, they had a stimulus ready that would have put some money into the economy and given, they were talking about each American would get $2,400. And over a weekend, Nancy Pelosi walked in with an 1,100-page addendum. She and her team didn't put that together in a couple of days. That has been ready for years. They have been building and preparing this. No matter who the president would have been, they have been getting this ready for years, because once you have a, quote, pandemic, you've got fear, guilt. They're guilting young people. Stay away from old people. You're going to kill them. Stay away from them. Stay away from them. Stay away from them. It's all a bunch of just mental brainwash. Again, I hate to cloud the issue with the Bible, but you know, the Word of God declares that in the end, He will give man over to a strong delusion. And sadly, there are pastors playing into this. A pastor in Tampa, Florida, has been arrested because he wouldn't shut his megachurch down. And so now you have pastors out there saying, now listen, we need to shut down. Somebody sent me a video today of a pastor in Naples, Florida, who goes on and 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 on about he has got to be a good representation to the community, and it will obviously make the community nervous if they drive by and see cars in the parking lot. Therefore, until further notice, he's going to not have services. I've said it again, and I will say it now. Never have the church doors needed to be open like they do now. The church provides a place of peace, comfort, and stability in times of unrest, unease, and chaos. Why do you think Satan wants them closed? Why do you think globalists want them closed? And pastors are playing right into that hand. And what happens? Bill de Blasio says, you better do it or else I'll close you down permanently.
Permanent bans on houses of worship, that will never fly under the First Amendment or any of our laws on religious liberty. And so any effort to permanently ban a house of worship or to shut them down permanently, that's going to be met with the full force of the law, and we're happy, whether it's a pandemic or not, to take that case on.
Yeah, and then it's interesting that you bring that up, because that's where I was going next. Was Mayor de Blasio actually made that very comment when discussing possible fines for any houses of worship, churches, or synagogues that continue to violate their. I think in New York it's no more than 10 people are allowed to gather at this particular time, and so apparently that he was irked that maybe some churches or some synagogues were continuing to do so, and he actually threatened that. And I haven't seen if he's retracted that yet or not, but as of at least over the weekend, he suggested that he would potentially fine them up to permanently banning.
Now, while an argument can be made that the President of the United States, on behalf of the federal government, during an actual martial law emergency scenario, has the authority to shut down, say, a church, state and local officials do not. A church is protected by the Constitution. Just like a mayor can't decide to close down a federal building in his city. He doesn't have any jurisdiction. The same is true over the church. And my prediction is this will get challenged in court after all this nonsense is over. But we need to ask ourselves, what is post-America going to look like? What is the setup that we're heading for here? How is life going to be drastically different? Because, again, there's all these radical changes right now that we're being forced and manipulated into. And eventually they are going to roll this back. They do know that people do need to get back to work. They know things have to kind of get going again. But life is going to be different. It's kind of like after 9/11 and we willingly gave up the right to privacy. Because we want to be safe. We want to feel safe. What rights are we losing right now that we don't even realize we've lost yet? And even when this is over, how life is going to be, oh, so different. Are they going to start proposing things like, we really need to track the population and know where they are and what they're up to? Say, come on, Pastor, you're going off the deep end. Really? Really? A month ago, you might have been able to make that argument. Take a look at where you're at now. Well, I'm home. Yeah, under house arrest. No. Think again. Hey, that's it for today's rant. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you spread this channel and make sure you have smacked the bell to get notification of my rants by clicking the word all. Give us a thumbs up and a like. Post your comments. I do read them. I do appreciate them.